An alien fleet was stranded. Then humanity arrived to help. But salvation came at a price. As Korak warships unleashed devastation upon the defenseless Zilani, human vessels threw themselves into the line of fire. When Dr. Torres saved a wounded Korak soldier, with the simple words, "Because you needed help," War Master Grathak witnessed compassion's power and ordered his fleet to cease fire. The darkness of space stretched endlessly around the Kepler 442 star system. A vast emptiness punctuated only by the distant twinkling of foreign stars. On the outermost edge of this system, a cluster of 67 ships drifted silently, their crystalline hulls reflecting the faint, golden light of the distant Kepler star. These weren't human vessels. Their elegant, curved exteriors resembled frozen teardrops suspended in the void, a stark contrast to the utilitarian angles of Earth ships. Inside the largest of these vessels, Commander Thesara moved with measured steps across the bridge. Her pale blue skin shimmered slightly as she passed through patches of light, the crystalline quality of her epidermis catching and refracting the illumination in subtle patterns. Her deep-set eyes, dark and contemplative, surveyed the status reports with growing concern. The Zilani commander's slender frame belied her mental fortitude, a quality that was being tested more severely with each passing hour. "Life support stabilization at 63% and falling," reported a junior officer, his own skin dimming from its usual bright cyan to a muted blue-gray, the Zilani equivalent of pallor. Medical Bay 12 reports another 16 children showing advanced malnutrition symptoms. Thesara absorbed this information with outward calm, though inside her chest, an ache had taken permanent residence. 2 million Zilani refugees drifted aboard these ships. Among them, 12,000 children fought for their lives in medical bays never designed for such a crisis. The Zilani were a people of science and art. Their civilization had flourished through innovation and creativity, not through preparation for catastrophe. "Maintain power conservation protocols," she ordered. "Redirect remaining quantum pulse energy to medical bays 11 through 15. Her voice carried the melodic quality characteristic of her species, a subtle harmonic layering that made even dire commands sound like somber music. None of this should have happened. The sabotage of their quantum drives by Korak operatives had been meticulously executed, an act of war against a people who barely understood the concept. The Zilani weren't warriors. Their society had evolved beyond military hierarchies, focused instead on exploration, artistic expression, and scientific discovery. Now, they were paying the price for that peaceful evolution. 4 billion kilometers away, at the inner edge of the Kepler 442 system, the UHS Discovery proceeded on its survey mission. The human vessel's utilitarian design, a central cylinder with radiating modules and sensor arrays, reflected its practical purpose. Inside the command center, Captain Jake Morrison reviewed the preliminary resource scans of the system's 3 planets. "Promising concentrations of rare earth metals on Kepler 442c, he noted, scrolling through the data on his console. The asteroid belt between the second and third planets shows significant iridium and platinum deposits as well. It was a routine survey mission, the kind Morrison had led dozens of times before. At 42, he'd earned his reputation through diligence and sound judgment rather than flashy heroics. His salt and pepper hair, cropped short in traditional military style, framed a face weathered by years of space travel, but still animated by an innate curiosity. Most of all, Morrison was known for his unfailing compassion, a quality that had occasionally put him at odds with more pragmatic superiors, but had earned him the undying loyalty of his crew. "Captain!" Lieutenant Amy Walsh called from her sensor station, her brow furrowed in concentration. "I'm detecting unusual quantum signal patterns at the outer system boundary." Morrison moved to her station, studying the readouts. "Multiple sources?" "Yes, sir. 60 to 70 distinct quantum signatures. But they're static. She looked up, confusion evident in her expression. That's not normal. Quantum drives produce oscillating patterns when functioning properly. These are just sitting there. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Stranded ships meant people in trouble. Potentially, a lot of people. How far? Morrison asked. 4 billion kilometers, sir. Morrison stood straight, his decision already made. Set course for the anomaly, Lieutenant. Approach at safe distance, 2,000 kilometers. Let's see what we're dealing with. As the Discovery altered course, moving toward the distant edge of the Kepler 442 system, neither Morrison nor his crew could have imagined how this detour would alter not just their mission, but the fate of 3 civilizations. Aboard the Zalani flagship, Commander Thsara received the grim update she had been dreading. Life sustainability projections now at 14 days. Commander, her science officer reported. The unspoken conclusion hung heavy in the air. In 2 weeks, the first of their people would begin to die, starting with the weakest, the children. Thsara moved to the communications array, a chamber of crystalline spires that functioned as both aesthetic art installation and practical technology. The Zalani never separated beauty from function. She placed her hand on the central column, watching it illuminate with her touch. This is Commander Thsara of the Zalani Exodus Fleet, she began. Her voice, carrying harmonics of urgency, layered beneath remarkable control. Our quantum drives have been sabotaged. Medical supplies critical. 12,000 children require immediate assistance. The message would broadcast on all frequencies, spreading outward in an expanding sphere of desperately diminishing hope. The chances of anyone receiving it, understanding it, and arriving in time were astronomically small. But Thsara had no choice but to try. As the signal pulsed outward from the Zalani fleet, the Discovery continued its approach. Lieutenant Walsh monitored her sensors with growing excitement. Captain, I'm detecting life signs, she reported. Millions of them. And there's a transmission. It's not in any language I recognize, but the pattern suggests it's sentient communication, not random noise. Morrison leaned forward. Can we get a visual? The main view screen activated, showing the distant cluster of vessels. Even from this distance, it was immediately apparent they weren't of human design. Their organically curved hulls shimmered with an inner light, like enormous crystalline tears suspended in the void. Beautiful, someone whispered on the bridge. Morrison studied the vessels, his experienced eyes noting their complete lack of movement. They're dead in space, he concluded. Lieutenant Clark, any progress on that transmission? Lieutenant Commander Ryan Clark, the ship's communications and translation specialist, was already deep in concentration at his station. Working on it, sir. The language structure is unlike anything in our databases, but there are mathematical patterns I'm using as a foundation. I'm feeding it through our translation matrix now. Several tense minutes passed before Clark looked up. I have a partial translation, Captain. It appears to be a distress call. Something about sabotage drives and children requiring medical assistance. Morrison's expression hardened. Children? Yes, sir. If I'm interpreting correctly, there are thousands of them in need of urgent medical care. The captain didn't hesitate. Notify Dr. Torres. Tell him to prepare for potential alien physiology. Lieutenant Walsh, continue approach to 1,000 kilometers. Then hold position. As the Discovery closed the distance, the alien fleet grew more distinct on their view screens. 67 ships of varying sizes, all featuring the same crystalline, teardrop-shaped design. Their surfaces captured and reflected the distant starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Captain, Clark called out, his voice tight with urgency. I've refined the translation. They're reporting 12,000 children with severe malnutrition and medical distress. Their entire fleet, 2 million refugees, has approximately 2 weeks of life support remaining. A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the scale of the crisis became clear. 2 million lives hanging in the balance. Thousands of children already in critical condition. Morrison stood tall, his decision already made. "Open a channel, Lieutenant Clark. Let's introduce ourselves." On the Zalani command vessel, the Sara had almost abandoned hope when the communications array suddenly flared to life with an incoming transmission. The crystalline spires pulsed with unfamiliar patterns as the ship's systems struggled to interpret the alien language. "Unknown vessel approaching," her communications officer reported, skin flickering with surprise, a bright cyan ripple passing across his face. "The signal structure is unlike anything in our database." "Display," Sara ordered. The central crystal matrix illuminated, struggling to render the unfamiliar being on the other end of the transmission. The image stabilized to reveal a creature with tanned skin, no crystalline refraction visible, and facial features arranged in a configuration Sara had never seen before. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Discovery," the creature said, the translation matrix converting his words into approximations of Zalani speech patterns. "We've received your distress call. We're here to help." The Sara felt a surge of emotions she couldn't fully process. Hope, disbelief, suspicion, relief, all competing for dominance. She stepped forward, letting the communication array capture her image. "I am Commander Sara of the Zalani Exodus Fleet," she responded. Her harmonics carefully modulated to convey both authority and gratitude. "Our people thank you for responding to our call. Captain Morrison, our situation is dire. Our quantum drives have been sabotaged, leaving us stranded. Our medical systems are failing, and our children are suffering most severely." The alien captain nodded, a gesture Sara couldn't interpret. "We're sending a shuttle to dock with your vessel, Commander. Our medical officer will accompany me to assess how we can best assist your people." Sara hesitated only briefly. The prospect of allowing unknown aliens aboard their vessel carried risks. But those risks paled in comparison to the certainty of watching their children die. "We accept your assistance with gratitude, Captain Morrison. I will meet your shuttle personally." Within an hour, a small craft departed from the Discovery, navigating carefully through the Zalani fleet until it reached the command vessel. Inside the shuttle, Captain Morrison sat beside Dr. Ben Torres, the ship's chief medical officer. Both men tense with the weight of first contact combined with an urgent humanitarian crisis. "We're flying blind here, Jake," Torres said quietly. The doctor was a tall man with a perpetually furrowed brow, his dark eyes intense with focus. "I have no idea if our medicines will help them or poison them. Their biochemistry could be completely incompatible with anything we have." Morrison nodded grimly. "I understand the risks, Ben, but we can't just watch millions die when we might be able to help. Do what you can, but first, do no harm." The shuttle docked with the Zalani vessel, connecting to an airlock that the aliens had adapted surprisingly quickly to accommodate the human craft. As the door opened, Morrison and Torres found themselves face to face with Commander Sara. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, the Zalani commander towered over the humans. Her slender frame was draped in flowing garments that seemed to be part of a uniform, though the subtle patterns woven into the fabric suggested artistic consideration as well as function. But it was her skin that captured their attention, a pale blue that seemed to contain depth, as though looking at the surface of a crystal rather than flesh. When she moved, light played across her skin in mesmerizing patterns. "Captain Morrison," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't produce. "Welcome aboard the Zalani vessel Eternal Light. I cannot express the depth of our gratitude for your response to our distress." Morrison stepped forward, careful to move slowly and keep his hands visible. "Commander Sara, Thank you for trusting us. This is Dr. Ben Torres, our Chief Medical Officer. With your permission, he'd like to examine some of your ill to determine how we might help. Sarah inclined her head, a gesture of agreement. Of course. I will take you to Medical Bay 12, where many of our children are being treated. As they followed the Zilani commander through the ship, both humans were struck by the integration of beauty and function in every aspect of the vessel's design. Corridors curved organically, their walls embedded with crystalline formations that provided both illumination and, Morrison suspected, information displays incomprehensible to human eyes. The ship itself felt alive in a way that human vessels never did, as though it had been grown rather than constructed. The medical bay, when they reached it, drove home the severity of the crisis. Hundreds of Zilani children lay on beds that hovered slightly above the floor. Their skin, which Morrison assumed should have been vibrant like Sarah's, appeared dull and lacked the crystalline quality he'd observed in the adults. Many appeared to be unconscious, while others moved listlessly, their large eyes lacking focus. Dr. Torres immediately opened his medical kit, removing his scanner with a professional efficiency that belied his inner turmoil. This was first contact combined with a medical emergency, a scenario no physician was truly prepared for. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the nearest child. Sarah nodded, and a Zilani physician stepped forward, shorter than Sarah, but with the same crystalline skin quality, though hers held a greenish tint. "I am Dr. Estreva." She introduced herself. "The children suffer from multiple deficiencies. Our food synthesis systems are failing, and their bodies cannot sustain the crystal lattice integration process without proper nutrition." Torres began scanning the child, his expression growing more concerned as he studied the readings. "Their cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen," he murmured. "There appears to be a crystalline matrix integrated with what would be equivalent to our organic cells." He looked up at Dr. Estreva. "What nutrients are they specifically lacking?" As the doctors fell into intense discussion about biochemistry and potential treatments, Morrison turned to Thesara. "Commander, with your permission, I'd like our engineering team to examine your quantum drive systems. We might be able to assist with repairs." Thesara's skin dimmed slightly, what Morrison was beginning to recognize as an expression of sorrow or concern. "The sabotage was thorough, Captain. The quantum resonance chambers were destroyed, using specialized weapons designed to disrupt the crystalline matrices we use in our technology. Your assistance would be welcome, but I fear the damage may be beyond repair with the resources available to us." Morrison nodded grimly. "Let me bring my chief engineer over to assess the situation. In the meantime, I'll contact Earth and request an emergency relief mission. We have ships with advanced medical facilities and supplies that could reach your fleet within days." Sarah's skin brightened momentarily, a flash of hope. "Days? Many children will not survive that long without intervention. Then we'll focus on immediate solutions while waiting for reinforcements," Morrison assured her. "Dr. Torres is the best physician I know. If there's any way to adapt our medical technology to help your people, he'll find it." Back on the Discovery, Chief Engineer Lisa Parker received the captain's request with characteristic enthusiasm. A brilliant engineer with a pragmatic approach to problem-solving, Parker had built her reputation on making impossible repairs under pressure. "Alien quantum drives? Hell yes. I'm in," she declared, already assembling her toolkit and a team of engineers. "Though I should warn you, Captain, if their technology is crystal-based as you described, we're entering unknown territory. Our tools might be as useful as stone axes." "Do what you can, Chief," Morrison instructed. "Even temporary solutions to extend their life support would buy us precious time." While Parker and her team prepared to board the Zilani vessels, Morrison retreated to his ready room to compose the most important message of his career. The Operation Lifeline protocol was rarely invoked, a request for maximum emergency assistance requiring approval at the highest levels of Earth government. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UHS Discovery," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his request. "I am invoking Operation Lifeline Protocol. We have encountered a refugee fleet of non-human origin in the Kepler 442 system. 2 million individuals, including 12,000 critically ill children, are stranded with failing life support. I am requesting immediate dispatch of medical vessels, supply ships, and repair crews with quantum drive expertise." He continued detailing the situation, including preliminary data on Zilani physiology and technology that Dr. Torres and Lieutenant Clark had compiled. The Zilani appear to be a peaceful, advanced civilization with no military capacity. Their situation is the result of deliberate sabotage by a hostile third party. Earth has an opportunity here, not only to save millions of lives, but to establish first contact relations with a spacefaring civilization in dire need. I cannot overstate the urgency of this request. Morrison out. The message would take 6 hours to reach Earth and another 6 for a response to return. In the meantime, the crew of the Discovery faced the daunting task of keeping thousands of alien children alive with technology and medicine never designed for their physiology. On the Zilani command ship, Dr. Torres worked alongside Dr. Estreva, testing various combinations of nutrients that might be compatible with Zilani biochemistry. The breakthrough came when he discovered that certain human antibiotics, when broken down and recombined with Zilani nutritional compounds, created a substance that their bodies could process. "It's not a permanent solution," Torres cautioned, watching as the first treated children showed faint signs of improvement, their skin beginning to regain some of its crystalline quality. "But it might buy us the time we need until proper supplies arrive." Meanwhile, Chief Engineer Parker and her team faced challenges of their own. The quantum drive chambers of the Zilani ships were technological marvels, crystal matrices suspended in zero-gravity fields, designed to manipulate subatomic particles in ways human science had only theorized about. The sabotage had shattered these matrices at the molecular level, rendering them useless. "We can't repair these," Parker admitted to Sarah and Morrison during their inspection. "The damage is too fundamental, and we don't have the materials or knowledge to recreate Zilani quantum crystals." Sarah's skin dimmed with resignation, but Parker wasn't finished. "However," the engineer continued, her eyes bright with the challenge, "we might be able to jury-rig a connection between our fusion generators and your power distribution systems. It won't fix your drives, but it could provide enough energy to fully power your life support and food synthesis units. That would save many lives," Thesara acknowledged, her harmonics expressing gratitude beyond what the translation matrix could fully convey. As human and Zilani crews worked side by side, minor conflicts inevitably arose. Some Zilani engineers expressed concern about allowing humans access to their systems, fearing exploitation of their technology. These tensions manifested in heated debates among the Zilani themselves, those who advocated for self-reliance versus those who supported fuller cooperation with the humans. Dr. Torres faced his own internal conflict as he administered the experimental treatment to more Zilani children. Each dose represented a calculated risk, the possibility that some unknown interaction might harm rather than heal. Yet the alternative, doing nothing, guaranteed suffering and death. It was the most fundamental ethical dilemma in medicine, now complicated by interspecies biochemistry. "What if I'm wrong?" he confided to Dr. Estreva during a rare quiet moment. "What if these treatments have long-term effects we can't predict?" The Zilani physician's skin rippled with patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as compassionate understanding. "All medicine involves uncertainty, Dr. Torres, but humans must do what is right, and so must Zilani. We choose to trust." While the immediate crisis demanded their full attention, a new threat loomed on the horizon. The Zelani long-range sensors detected energy signatures at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, signatures that Commander Thassara recognized with dread. Korak warships, she informed Morrison during their next meeting. 36 battlecruisers approaching in attack formation. They will reach our position in approximately 12 hours. Morrison's expression hardened. The ones who sabotaged your drives? Yes. The Korak Empire views us as a resource to be harvested, or an obstacle to be removed. They damaged our fleet to prevent our escape, intending to return and... She paused, searching for words the translation matrix could properly convey. To extinguish all Zelani light. Not while we're here, Morrison stated firmly. I've received word from Earth. An emergency response fleet is on its way, including military escorts. The first ships should arrive within 8 hours, ahead of the Korak. For the first time, Thassara allowed herself to feel genuine hope. Her skin brightened visibly, patterns of light cascading across her crystalline epidermis. Your people would defend strangers against such a threat? Morrison's answer was simple but resolute. That's who we are, Commander. Or at least, that's who we strive to be. The next 8 hours passed in a blur of activity. Chief Engineer Parker successfully connected the Discovery's fusion generators to the life support systems of the largest Zelani vessels, providing stable power for the first time since the sabotage. Dr. Torres and Dr. Estreva refined their treatment protocol, saving hundreds of children who had been on the brink of death. When the first ships from Earth arrived, a medical vessel and 2 fast attack cruisers, Morrison felt a surge of pride in humanity's response. Admiral Chris Davis, commanding the relief fleet, wasted no time deploying medical teams and additional engineers to the Zelani vessels. The rest of the fleet is 6 hours behind us, Davis informed Morrison during their briefing. Supply ships, repair vessels, and additional military escorts. Earth has authorized full support for this operation. Morrison nodded gratefully. We'll need it. Admiral, Korak warships will arrive in approximately 4 hours. Davis's expression remained professionally neutral, but his eyes revealed his concern. We're outnumbered until the rest of our fleet arrives. Captain Martinez's attack cruisers are fast and well armed, but they can't match 36 Korak battlecruisers in direct combat. Then we don't engage in direct combat, Morrison suggested. We focus on protecting the Zelani fleet and buying time until reinforcements arrive. As the humans prepared their defenses, a remarkable scene unfolded aboard the Zelani vessels. Thousands of Zelani civilians, scientists, artists, teachers, volunteered to help defend their ships. Though their civilization lacked military tradition, their intelligence and creativity proved valuable in developing unconventional tactics. Dr. Ben Torres, now coordinating the combined human-Zelani medical response, established a flying hospital aboard one of the human transport ships. With Dr. Estreva's assistance, they developed protocols for treating the most critical patients, creating a sanctuary where Zelani children could receive intensive care away from the coming battle. When the Korak fleet appeared at the edge of sensor range, Admiral Davis deployed Captain Julie Martinez's attack cruisers in a defensive screen around the Zelani vessels. The smaller, faster human ships darted between the massive Zelani vessels, using their maneuverability to compensate for their limited numbers. The Korak ships advanced in perfect formation, massive, angular vessels bristling with weapons. Their design emphasized intimidation and raw power, a stark contrast to both the elegant Zelani ships and the functional human vessels. They're hailing us, Lieutenant Clark reported from the communication station on the Discovery, which was now serving as a coordination center for the combined human-Zelani defense. Put it through, Morrison ordered, standing beside Admiral Davis and Commander Thassara. The view screen activated to reveal a brutish figure with gray, leathery skin and multiple ridges along its skull. Its eyes were small and deeply set, giving it a perpetually suspicious appearance. I am War Master Greythak of the Korak Empire, the figure announced, its voice guttural and harsh. "You interfere with Korak justice. The Zilani refused our rightful authority. Now they will be made an example of. Remove your vessels immediately, or be destroyed with them." Admiral Davis stepped forward. "I am Admiral Chris Davis of the United Earth Fleet. The Zilani are under our protection. We have no quarrel with the Korak Empire, but we will defend these refugees against unprovoked aggression." Grathak's expression shifted to one of incredulous rage. "You would risk war with the Korak for these worthless crystal skins? Their only value is in the resources their bodies will provide when we process them." Thesara visibly stiffened at this barbaric statement, but maintained her dignity as she addressed the Korak leader. "We sought only to exist in peace. War Master, it is the Korak who brought war to a people who had never harmed you." "Silence!" Grathak snarled. "You will all perish together. The Korak show no mercy to those who defy us." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the command center in momentary silence. "Well," Admiral Davis said grimly, "diplomacy has failed. Prepare all ships for combat. Our priority is protecting the Zilani vessels until our reinforcements arrive." The battle began with a coordinated barrage from the Korak fleet, their weapons targeting the largest Zilani ships. Captain Martinez's attack cruisers darted forward, using precision strikes to disrupt the Korak firing solutions while avoiding direct confrontation with the larger vessels. What happened next surprised both the humans and the Korak. The Zilani ships, despite their lack of conventional weapons, began using their crystalline hulls to refract and redirect energy weapons. Hundreds of Zilani moved throughout their vessels, physically adjusting crystal nodes to create defensive shields that deflected a significant portion of the Korak attacks. On one of the human repair ships, engineer Nancy Gray found herself trapped in a small engine compartment when Korak boarding parties breached the hull. Rather than surrender, she isolated the compartment and triggered an energy surge that disabled the intruders, sacrificing her own safety to protect her crewmates. Fighter pilot Dan Cooper executed a daring maneuver, threading his craft between devastating barrages of Korak fire to destroy a primary weapon array on the lead Korak battleship, just as it prepared to fire on the Zilani hospital ship. The tide of battle shifted dramatically when the Korak flagship targeted the hospital ship, where Dr. Torres and Dr. Estreva were treating critically ill children. War Master Grathak, observing from his command center, expected the humans to abandon the doomed vessel. Instead, he watched in astonishment as both human and Zilani ships moved to intercept the attack, placing themselves in the line of fire to protect the vulnerable. In the chaos of battle, a damaged Korak fighter crashed into the hospital ship, injuring several crew members, including a Korak soldier who had been piloting the fighter. Dr. Torres immediately directed his team to treat the injured enemy with the same care they showed their own people. When the Korak soldier regained consciousness, he found himself being treated by Dr. Torres, confused and hostile. He demanded to know why an enemy would save him. Torres's response was simple: "Because you needed help." This moment, witnessed by Korak observers through the soldier's communication link, sent ripples through the Korak command structure. War Master Grathak, who had built his career on the principle that strength alone determined worth, found himself confronted with a demonstration of power he had never considered: the strength to show compassion, even to an enemy. As the battle reached its climax, with human reinforcements finally arriving to turn the tide decisively in their favor, Grathak made an unprecedented decision. He ordered all Korak vessels to cease fire. The humans fight. Strangely, he communicated to his officers, his voice betraying his confusion. They risk death for aliens who cannot benefit them. I would understand this battle better. A tense ceasefire followed, during which Grathak requested a direct meeting with Admiral Davis and Commander Thesara. The three leaders, accompanied by Captain Morrison, gathered aboard a neutral vessel, one of the human medical ships that had been treating both Zilani and Korak wounded. Why do you protect our enemies? Grathak demanded of the humans. His small eyes narrowed with suspicion. They needed our help, Morrison answered simply, echoing Dr. Torres's words. That's reason enough. Thesara, translating cultural nuances beyond what the machines could capture, added, We seek only to survive. War Master. All of us, Zelani, human, Korak, share the same fate if we cannot learn to cooperate. The discussion continued for hours, moving from hostile accusations to cautious negotiation. Eventually, a temporary agreement was reached. The Korak would withdraw from the Kepler 442 system, allowing the humans and Zelani to continue their relief efforts without interference. In return, the humans would share certain medical technologies with the Korak and facilitate ongoing diplomatic discussions. It was far from a permanent peace, but it represented the first step toward a new relationship between the three species. Over the following 6 months, a remarkable transformation took place in the Kepler 442 system. A new space station, named New Thera Station in honor of Commander Thesara, was constructed in orbit around one of the system's planets, a world that, while not perfectly suited to any of the three species, could support modified habitats for all of them. The planet below was divided into 3 regions: a central community zone where children of all species played together, humans teaching Zelani children ball games, while Zelani children taught humans how to create patterns with their own bioelectric fields. A Zelani city that maintained their curved, ethereal architecture, but incorporated collaborative technology centers, and a Korak academic base, where former soldiers were being retrained as engineers and doctors in a joint research facility. The Tri-Species Accord, signed aboard New Thera Station, established formal relations between humans, Zelani, and Korak. The agreement included provisions for non-militarization of Zelani refugee zones, technology sharing between human medical teams and Korak scientists, and the establishment of a multi-species academy for language, cultural, and scientific exchange. Captain Morrison, standing on the observation deck of the station, watched as transport ships arrived from Earth, bringing more supplies and personnel to support the growing community. Admiral Davis approached, handing him a data tablet. "New orders from Earth Command," Davis explained. "They want you to investigate a missing signal at the edge of the Milky Way. Possible new threat." Morrison accepted the tablet, his expression thoughtful. "We won't face it alone this time." As he looked out at the station, its crystalline elements reflecting starlight in patterns that mimicked the skin of its Zelani inhabitants, human and Zelani children playing in zero-gravity recreation zones, Korak engineers learning the art of healing rather than destroying. Morrison reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. "In the vastness of space," he murmured, "sometimes a simple act of kindness can change an entire galaxy." Commander Thesara joined him at the viewport, her crystalline skin glowing with health and purpose. "Your people taught mine something valuable, Captain Morrison. When the Korak attacked, we had resigned ourselves to extinction. We had no concept of fighting to protect others at risk to ourselves. And your people taught us about resilience and adaptation," Morrison replied. "The art in your technology, the beauty you create even in the midst of crisis. Humanity has much to learn from the Zelani." Below them, in the station's central plaza, a group of Korak students listened attentively as Dr. Torres and Dr. Estreva demonstrated a new medical technique combining human surgical precision with Zelani light healing. The former enemies now worked side by side, their differences still evident, but no longer defining their relationship. "We will face challenges," Thesara acknowledged, her harmonics conveying both concern and determination. "Not all Korak accept this new path. Many humans fear the unknown. My own people struggle with the trauma of near extinction. But we face those challenges together," Morrison concluded. "And that makes all the difference." As New Thera Station rotated slowly against the backdrop of stars, its lights merging human practicality, Zilani artistry, and Korak strength into something entirely new. The message it sent to the galaxy was clear. Compassion could build bridges across the void of space, connecting species that might otherwise have remained forever separate in the cold darkness between the stars. Dr. Torres, observing a Zilani child teaching a human child how to create simple light patterns with their fingers, smiled at the unexpected outcome of what had begun as a desperate rescue mission. "The most advanced technology in the universe," he remarked to Dr. Estreva, "is still kindness." The Zilani physician's skin shimmered with agreement as she replied, "And perhaps that is the one technology all species must develop if we are to survive among the stars." In the command center of New Thera Station, representatives of all three species worked together to coordinate the growing interspecies community. Maps of the galaxy displayed potential new exploration routes. Scientific research progressed on technologies combining the strengths of all three civilizations, and diplomatic channels remained open for ongoing negotiation of more permanent accords. Captain Morrison, preparing to depart on his new mission, took one last look at what they had built together. What had begun with a simple decision to investigate a distress call had expanded into something that would alter the course of three civilizations. It wasn't perfect. There would be setbacks, conflicts, misunderstandings, but the foundation had been laid for something remarkable. As the Discovery pulled away from the station, Morrison couldn't help but feel that they had all been changed by this encounter. The humans had demonstrated the best of what they could be: compassionate, resourceful, willing to take risks for strangers in need. The Zilani had shown incredible resilience and adaptability, transforming from refugees on the brink of extinction to partners in a new collaborative future. Even the Korak, once seemingly implacable enemies, had revealed capacity for growth and change when confronted with an alternative to conquest. In the vast emptiness between stars, three species had found each other, and, against all odds, chosen connection over conflict. It was, Morrison reflected, the most hopeful beginning he could imagine for humanity's continuing journey into the unknown depths of space.